Oh, this is a really good question. Thank you for asking. What are some volunteer activities folks who are not able to physically march can do? I've lost most of my stamina and mobility in the past 3 years, and then they want to know how they can get involved in resistance work if you can't go to a march. So let me just start off here by saying that going to marches like No King's Day, that's just the beginning of resistance work, right? Like those are important. They're really good for boosting our morale. They're really good for helping make a very big public demonstration to those corporations, those pillars of support under the regime that like, hey, the resistance is in every corner of this country. Millions and millions of people are not down with what's happening. Trump is not nearly as popular as he's trying to tell you that he is. So you really might want to rethink whether or not you're going to continue to be a collaborator with the Trump regime. More importantly, events like No King's Day are crucial for bringing new people into the movement. I've talked about this extensively. For all of the folks who don't understand the purpose of events like No King's Day, it's not to get Donald Trump to step down. It's not going to stop this. What it is a place to bring people in. It is creating a very small ask. Like, hey, could you just show up on a Saturday and connect with other people? Like, build your morale, give yourself some hope, and form new relationships with folks. And while you're at it, sign up to be a part of 5051 or Indivisible or the DSA or Working Family, whatever groups are at that event. Get plugged in because we're going to give you the next steps. Events like No King's Day, more than anything, are recruitment events. They are about helping people feel that resistance work is accessible to them because we need all the normies. We need all the people who've never protested before. We need a huge coalition of millions and millions of Americans who have never done this work before. And we need to bring those people in, provide them with skills, connections, support, tasks to do so that they can be effective members of the resistance. They have a role here. They are needed. And I think this question speaks very much to that because we know that marches are not accessible to everybody. Only half of my family was able to attend No Kings. People have to work. People have physical limitations. Kids have school. I'm always going to tell college students, like, education is resistance. If you can't come to a march or an event because you are focused on trying to get your degree, that is an act of resistance in a country that is trying to dismantle higher education. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So for people who can't access marches, first of all, if you want to go to a rally or a protest, there are other events that I think are more accessible for people. We do a lot of honkin' waves, which are really good stationary events that are meant to be accessible for people with disabilities. We have a lot of older folks who participate in those because they're stationary. They are at high visibility locations and they are about letting people know the resistance is here. They're about a public demonstration. And if you think that those are like performative and not useful, I have to tell you, I've heard after a couple of these or during a couple of these from immigrants who are walking by or in the park near the honk and wave that we're having, how grateful that they are, that they don't feel safe participating in those kinds of activities. And it's really meaningful for them to see that there are people who support them, that there are people who are speaking out against what ICE is doing. That matters. Any visual display of resistance really, really matters. But there's so much more that we can and should be doing. I'm really a big fan of taking a little bit of training so that you understand what kind of tactics you can engage in terms of nonviolent direct actions. Most people in the resistance movement are not going to be willing to get arrested. Most people in the resistance movement are not willing to put themselves on the line and get pepper sprayed or shot with rubber bullets. And y'all, honestly, like, that's okay. We don't need most people to get arrested. There are certain people who are willing to volunteer for that role. There are certain people who are willing to engage in civil disobedience, understanding the consequences that go with that. But hey, y'all, they need everybody behind them, supporting them. So if somebody is willing to get arrested, if somebody like Pastor David Black in Chicago, you're willing to get pepper sprayed while you are praying in front of ICE, then we need people who are willing to do things like create bail funds. We need people who are willing to do things like create strike funds. I think so often people discount the value of contributing financially to resistance. Honestly, like, it's one of the reasons that I'm not willing to get arrested right now, because the revenue that I earn doing this work, I can donate to protesters, to organizations, to Doctors Without Borders, to ACLU, to Indivisible, directly to protesters. I can help contribute to strike funds. I can help pay people's bail. I think for me, I really struggle with the fact that my platform has gotten very big very quickly. I get recognized everywhere that I go, and that's very, I don't enjoy that at all. People are really lovely, but I don't actually enjoy being a public figure. But I'm willing to make that sacrifice because I know that I can earn income that can be used to help in ways that, a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to afford to help in those ways. And I think I am far more useful to the resistance being able to do my job than I am being on the front lines at a protest and getting arrested. At least right now, at this moment in time, right? We need people who have medic skills. We need people who can, cook for protesters. We need people who can organize local resistance meetings. Gosh, I don't think that there is an indivisible chapter in this country who doesn't need people to volunteer in all kinds of roles. We have a comms team that does social media and puts out a newsletter. We have folks who communicate with the press. When we're going to have an event, they give them a heads up like, hey, we're going to be doing this thing. Could you show up and cover the story? We need people who are willing to be liaisons between us and our elected officials. We need people who are willing to go to town halls. I think when we're looking at people with physical limitations or financial limitations, a good place to start is, what can you do from home? In other nonprofits I've worked with, we call this no pants volunteering or pajama pants volunteering. What can you do from home? We're looking at eroding those pillars of support. Can you organize some kind of letter writing campaign, some kind of phone campaign? Can you volunteer for phone bank? As we're looking at primaries, as we're looking at elections coming up, are there campaigns that you could volunteer for? Could you call? We're looking at eroding pillars of support. Contact your alma mater, contact your alumni association, and start a letter writing campaign to pressure your alma mater not to comply with the regime. If they are one of the universities like Columbia that has, then there needs to be a scathing, organized campaign of alumni. Can you contribute to that? Can you volunteer to do childcare while other people go to protests? Can you organize craftivism events? One of the craftivism events that one of our sister Indivisible chapters has been doing is making these bracelets for PIRC, which is the Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition. Folks make bracelets that have the PIRC phone number on it. And then it comes with a little card that has the number for PIRC, has details about who calls PIRC and when. So, right, if you see ICE, you call and report. If you're an immigrant and you need support, then you call this number and they'll get you connected. So they're giving out these bracelets so that regular Portlanders remember to call PIRC, but also so that if immigrants are picked up by ICE, they have a phone number on them. When they're allowed a phone call, they can call this number and get assistance. Indivisible volunteers in Portland have been making these and then handing them out. As we're going into the late fall and winter, and as we're looking at increasing food bank shortages because the regime has massively cut food bank funding, and especially if the government shutdown continues, everybody's going to lose their SNAP benefits starting November 1st. I think organizing around how we feed people is going to be more important than ever. I know it's terrible to say that in the wealthiest country on earth, that we're going to have an awful lot of people going. We already have an awful lot of people going hungry. What is it? 12% of Americans access some kind of food aid and experience regular food insecurity. That's about to get much, much worse. A key component of resistance is mutual aid. So what can we do right now to feed people? And also, I would say, as we're going into winter and we're looking at ever increasing heating costs, what can we do to make sure that people are kept warm this winter? What else? What other kinds of resistance work do you guys see as important and valuable that people, especially people who are not physically able to march, can engage in? We need everybody's contributions. No matter what your limitations are, no matter who you are, we need you. You are valuable. You matter. You are a necessary part of resistance. Nobody, due to physical or financial limitations, should feel that they are excluded from resistance work, from being part of this movement. This is your country. This is your future. We need you and you matter. So I would love to hear what other kinds of things people are doing where you are that are not marches. What are the roles that you need filled? What are the ways that you need people to contribute? And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, please drop links to your local group that needs help. Everybody matters. Every contribution matters right now. So thank you. I really, really appreciate this question.